Hello everyone, and welcome back to Writing Tutorials. In today's video, we're going to walk through a professional sample of an authorization letter for motorcycle use. But before we dive into the actual letter, let's take a moment to understand what an authorization letter is. An authorization letter is a formal document where one person gives another person legal permission to act on their behalf in a specific matter. In this case, it's about granting someone permission to use your motorcycle. This kind of letter is important because it creates a written record that clearly shows consent and details the terms of use. Having everything in writing helps avoid misunderstandings and protects both the owner and the person using the motorcycle. Now, let's break down the letter step by step so you know exactly what to write and why each part matters. We begin with the sender's information at the top left corner of the letter. Michael J. Harris, 2247 Willow Creek Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32805, 407-555-2846, michael.harris@email.com. This section is essential because it tells the recipient who the letter is coming from and how to contact the sender if needed. Always make sure you include your full name, complete address, phone number, and email. Accuracy here is very important because if the recipient needs clarification, they should have no trouble reaching you. Next, we add the date of writing, which in this sample is September 15th, 2025. The date matters because authorization is time-sensitive. It shows when the permission started and helps avoid confusion later. For example, if there is ever a dispute about when authorization was valid, the date on the letter becomes a clear reference. After the date, we include the recipient's information or greeting. In this case, the letter uses a general salutation. To whom it may concern, sometimes, you may not know the exact person who will handle or read the letter. For instance, it could be a traffic officer, a registration authority, or even the workplace security team. In such cases, to whom it may concern works perfectly. However, if you know the exact person's name or title, it's always better to address them directly because it adds professionalism and clarity. Then we move to the subject line. Subject: Authorization for motorcycle use. The subject line gives the reader an immediate understanding of what the letter is about. It makes it easy for them to file or reference it later. Always keep your subject short, clear, and to the point. Now comes the main body of the letter, starting with the Declaration of Authorization. I, Michael J. Harris, hereby authorize David L. Turner, residing at 1190 Oak Ridge Road, Orlando, Florida, 32806, to use my motorcycle for personal and work-related purposes. This opening sentence is very direct and important. It states who is granting the authorization, who is receiving it, and what it covers. Notice how it includes both the full names and addresses of both parties. That level of detail helps avoid confusion, especially if there are multiple people with similar names. When you write your own authorization letter, be sure to spell everything out clearly so there's no room for doubt. The next section lists the details of the motorcycle. The details of the motorcycle are as follows. Make/model, Honda Shadow Phantom. Year, 2022. Color, matte black. License plate. Number, FL3927XJ. This part is very practical and crucial. By including the make, model, year, color, and license plate number, you are precisely identifying the vehicle being authorized. Imagine if you owned two motorcycles, or if someone tried to misuse the letter for a different vehicle. These details make sure that only the correct motorcycle is covered by the authorization. My tip here: always double-check that all the information matches exactly what is on the official registration. Then we move on to the validity period of the authorization. This authorization is valid from September 15th, 2025 to December 15th, 2025, unless revoked earlier in writing. During this period, Mr. Turner is permitted to operate the motorcycle responsibly and in compliance with all traffic and safety regulations. Here, the writer sets a clear time frame for the authorization. This is very important because it limits the duration of responsibility. Without dates, someone might try to misuse the letter months or even years later. It also adds a condition of revoking the authorization in writing, which shows professionalism and protects the owner. Finally, reminding the authorized person to follow all traffic and safety regulations highlights responsibility. When you write yours, always include dates and conditions so that your authorization can't be misused. Next, the letter includes an affirmation of ownership. I affirm that I am the lawful owner of the motorcycle and grant this authorization willingly. A copy of my driver's license and motorcycle registration is attached for verification. This part confirms that the sender is the legitimate owner and that the authorization is voluntary. It also mentions that important documents, like the driver's license and motorcycle registration, are attached. Including attachments is a very smart move because it makes the letter more credible and easier for authorities to verify. My tip is, always mention attachments when you include them and make sure they're clear and easy to read. The next section is the contact assurance. Should you require any further information, please feel free to contact me at the phone number or email listed above. This shows cooperation and openness. By offering to provide more information, you make the letter more trustworthy. It also reassures the recipient that they can double-check if needed. A polite, open sentence like this is always a good way to close the main body of your authorization letter. Now, let's not forget the closing and signature. Sincerely, signature. Michael J. Harris. This is the professional way to close a letter. The word sincerely is polite and formal, and then you include your handwritten signature above your typed name. The signature is crucial in authorization letters because it proves that the sender personally approved the document. So that's the complete structure of the authorization letter for motorcycle use. Each section plays an important role, and together, they make the letter professional, clear, and legally useful. Whenever you're writing an authorization letter, always keep it clear, concise, and specific. Avoid vague language and double-check all names, dates, and details. Make sure the person you're authorizing is someone you fully trust, because you are putting your name and responsibility on the line. And finally, keep a copy of the letter for your own records, just in case you need it later. And that brings us to the end of today's video on writing tutorials. We've just gone through a professional sample of an authorization letter for motorcycle use, and I hope you now feel confident about writing one yourself. Remember, the goal is to communicate permission clearly while protecting both the owner and the authorized user. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.